research, especially at the Seattle campus. We do a lot of integration and working directly with the students in capstones and things here in Bothell and in Tacoma, as well as Seattle. It's that next generation of talent, the next generation of engineers. We're very passionate about that. You know, we think about what we need to do in this space going forward. One thing that's very beneficial is a lot of the people we're hiring today have this knowledge, have curiosity in this space, have dabbled in this space already. And then when we marry that together with the foundational engineering knowledge, it can be very powerful. Dr. Brunton, and in fact, if you Google Eigensteve, you might even see it somewhere there too. He keyed the phrase, the pie-shaped engineer. And it's not piece of pie, it's simple pie. And what it means is, in addition to a broad perspective, you have one leg of the pie is depth in a traditional foundational engineering science, maybe mechanical engineering, electrical engineering. And the other leg is data accuracy. And having an understanding of AI would be part of that. Software engineering part of that. And marrying those together, have it all in one brain, so it's not a handoff to someone else. It's very powerful. And that's where we were working with both Steve Brunton and Nick Hoots on how we can develop that capability for people who are going today who already have a depth in the knowledge of the product, in the knowledge of mechanical or electrical engineering, and have a passion to develop that other leg. So we don't have to teach that one part, and we can develop the other parts. We actually have many of our engineers who are actually going through additional training, getting master's degrees in the University of Washington data science to marry what they have. But the next generation, they already have a lot of knowledge in the data science space, or at least a passion for it, and marry that with and grow that foundational knowledge and what it means to be, I guess, more traditional aerospace engineer.
That's a very interesting insight. Many people say AI can do that, so I don't need to do anything. The other thing is the kids get very lazy because they wanted to do AI do everything for them, so they don't want to learn the depth of engineering, the bottom lines of what can now correct. What do you have to say to those kids what they should do?
What should I say to kids who want to be lazy? Well, if you want to come to Boeing and do cool things, I've never had a dull day in the decades that I've been at Boeing company, and it's actually been the pace of activity now. That's what I see as the main change, is we can converge much faster. So we can identify what the optimum solution is, using many of these tools, combining it with our traditional sciences to converge much faster, which means we can do more and more, which doesn't lead to things being boring or lazy. It leads to more excitement.
Yeah, fantastic. And the way you're looking at things, how you choose the talent is very insightful. So the student from what you're saying, they can say, yes, I have to learn both fundamental engineering, both qualification, and both how things should work. But use AI to make it even better, right?
You said it very well.
Good. Very nice. Thank you so much for talking.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Grayson Randall. Who? The Mia? Oh, okay. So sorry. I didn't know. Okay. Mr. Zamir? Are you here? Okay, please come up. So I want to introduce Mr. Zamir. Mr. Zamir Ray leads the strategic coordination of the Foundation's approach to the equitable and safe use of artificial intelligence to advance equity and global health and development outcomes. With the establishment of the internal AI task force representing the full breadth of the Foundation's focus area. The MIR also oversees various initiatives to include AI-related grant challenge grant opportunity, the establishment of an external AI advisory board and guiding principles, and the development of use cases for building an AI evidence base in partnership with colleges representing priority focus area within the Foundation. This work is grounded in an equitable, safe, reliable, and transparent approach to the use of AI tools in priority geographies. So, thank you so much. Please coming up.
So, Sherry, thanks very much for that introduction, and thank you kindly for the invitation. Good morning, colleagues. I must probably give you a warning. This is a very different topic. I really enjoyed some of the seismic presentation. Hopefully this doesn't bore you and is equally moving, but let's see. I think many of you would have seen this quote from Bothell, and I can certainly share with you that his optimism around AI comes into every discussion we have. But if indeed this is true, then our responsibility is not to just admire AI, but to really make it work where it matters. And the Foundation's vision around artificial intelligence is that this could really become a force multiplier in reducing inequality, in advancing development outcomes in health, education, agriculture, globally, particularly in low and middle income countries. And so a few fundamental questions we are trying to answer is how best to leverage that in a way that's safe, reliable, and relevant for low and middle income countries. And in many ways, resist the temptation of the shiny tool. It's so prevalent. Every other week, in fact, I think every other day, my team gets an email to say, we've solved it. We have the perfect clinician. We have the perfect nurse. And you ask the nurse 3 or 4 things in an African language, and it doesn't get far. You ask it 3 or 4 things in an Indian context about the rural setting, and it completely conflates the issue. In fact, I should give you a very concrete example. A few weeks back, they were running a trial in South Africa with a chatbot. I'm sure many of you have seen cool chatbots. And the chatbot was asked about drop in the context of an adolescent, a young woman asking about her partner having drop. So she engaged with the chatbot, and the chatbot gave answers about water, how clean the water is, where to find water, all of those things. She was completely confused because her question, for anybody that knows healthcare and anybody at that age, the word drop refers to an STD in men, a sexually transmitted disease, in fact, most times gonorrhea in men. Of the 4 LLMs that we used, none of them picked up that actually she was asking for advice about the partner having STD, not about where to get sparkling water. One of the things we really want to work towards is trying to find a way to amplify the voice of researchers in the Global South and change the dynamic from what has in some ways felt to them, and you see a number of them here, I'll show you a few more of them, as though they've been kind of left on the sidelines of what is a global race. And so we started to make investments in this regard and shift that dynamic. And it was really heartwarming earlier this year to have met a few of them in this forum. When one of the researchers stood up and said, I've been working on AI for the last 9 years, and for the first time, I feel like I've moved off the sidelines of this global race to actually be a player on the field. And that matters when we're thinking about AI in the context of health, education, agriculture, because it means that we're solving problems that are real for the communities these researchers are serving. So one of the things we did do, I'm not going to bore you with our timeline, but we launched a global call for ideas 2 years ago. The response was nothing short of phenomenal. In the 20-year history of the foundation, we have never seen a response to an open call like this. This call was only open for 14 days and got about 1,400 applications from about 85 countries. This was only applying artificial intelligence to development problems in those areas. And so, you know, in many ways, this was a very strong signal to us when you have 1,300 ideas that the ecosystem is already building and people are brimming with really good ideas. We were obviously not able to fund all 1,300, but we doubled our funding envelope and we funded 50 of these. Here are some of the topics that folks have worked on. And as you know, a lot of what the foundation does is in the healthcare R&D space and delivery space, but also some on sanitation, on education, etc. What was fantastic is that we funded 50, and then several countries were so excited by this, they then funded an additional 50. Grand challenges: Brazil, India, Ethiopia, South Africa, etc. And so what you see here is a 107 strong cohort putting their best minds together to solve some of these complex problems. And I reflect back on this moment. You know, I was here for a brief time. It's one of those environments you walk in and you kind of energized for weeks after, because you just get the sense that these are really smart folks trying to solve some of the toughest problems, and they just don't take it can't be done for an answer. The foundation is, as you know, our CEO has put some kind of first principles on the board and said, can we just really be guided by a few key things as we embark on our AI journey? And I think at the center of that, he's really asking us why. Why do we fundamentally believe that AI offers us different opportunities? And I'll talk about a few examples of why we're excited. He did want to make sure we were designing with inclusivity. And so how do we design some of these solutions, making sure that the voice, the concerns of populations that are to benefit from this are really catered for and included in design. A strong focus on moving forward responsibly. So what is, in the context of AI, we know there are many things that can go wrong, and we've seen a lot of that go wrong. In fact, I'm going to show you 1 or 2 examples. But we have to try and understand what are some of the safeguards that allow us to offer a much better standard than is available today, while making sure we address issues like safety, security, privacy, transparency. I certainly won't bore you with this detail, but I just wanted to give you a flavor of kind of the expanse of the foundation's work on AI. I started in this role about 2 years ago, moved to this beautiful city, and I was asked by the executive team, the question they put on the table was, is there there for AI? 2 years later, I think it's clear. If I look at the number of investments the foundation's made, now well into the 400 range, with a very substantial overall portion of our budget allocated to some of these, the way we structured this is across the three vertical domains, health, agriculture, education, is what are the kinds of solutions that target individuals as end consumers? What are the interventions that help frontline workers make better decisions at the point of engagement? So that could be an agricultural extension worker, could be a teacher, could be a nurse in a clinic. Then starting to think about predictive intelligence, which is really how do you help people who make the decisions in these big complex systems to make better decisions based on data and help them engage with the data in a way that's intuitive and simple. I'll give you another example, and I won't tell you which country, but walked into an African country that had spent an enormous amount on building a fantastic nerve center. 28 massive screens of data about its entire health system. And you kind of walk into this and you're like, wow, you really know what's happening. And you have the minister and you have like the director general and the full suite of executives from the Department of Health. And they're like, we've solved it. All the data's here. And one of my team went up to one indicator. Why he chose that one, I still don't know. And he said, where does this come from? And they were kind of brushed him off and said, maternal mortality rate. Well, we all know what it is. And he said, yeah, sure, we all know what it is, except your maternal mortality rate is 10 times higher on this screen than it is in reality. And everyone kind of just stood there and looked and went, oh. And the conclusion, nobody was using the data. There were all these fancy screens, and we all got sucked into just having the screens will solve the problem. Nobody was actually using the data, because if they were, nobody would accept that the MMR at 10 times was actually reflecting reality. But we also know to get some of these solutions in place, you need some enablers. And so some of the investments we've made around infrastructure, making sure that it's drawing on the right data for the country, for the region, for the context, thinking about language, local languages and how quickly we can advance the use of large language models in their context in a way that really matters. I'm going to talk for a few minutes on kind of where, we've placed the, we kind of double-clicked and said, we think these are the areas to go big. And a big disclaimer here, my bias is I'm a clinician, so I'm going to talk about the health things. I really enjoy the education and agriculture work we do too, but I'm not going to talk to you about that today. So, by the way, any guesses on what my prompt was for this image? Close, yeah. Give me a Van Gogh impression of AI for development. Half the things I can't quite make out what they are, but it's kind of cool. This one was okay. I should have brought you my entire suite of images of ask any of these LLMs to generate an image of a community healthcare worker in Africa. Oh my gosh. That's kind of fun to play with, but for another day. Let's just say I still don't have one image of the 20 tries that actually represents a community healthcare worker in Africa. Nonetheless, so the way we've thought about this, and I should attribute Atul Gawande with some of this thinking. He's been fantastic as a kind of a systems person, and he developed this over here. But one of the things he said to us was, let's just look at how health systems are structured today. And largely the work I'm referencing here is in low and middle income countries, but I'm sure you can start to draw some parallels to systems in the US or in Europe. They tend to be hospice-centric. They tend to be curative. They tend to have a triangle where care is really expensive at the top, sometimes prohibitively so, And as you go lower down the system, the base of the pyramid kind of disintegrates, and there's very little available, and primary healthcare is a non-issue. And for many people, getting hold of a nurse or doctor is near impossible when you need that. I was kind of shocked that's true of some parts of the US too. But what we know is that if we want to effect a systems change, we actually have to build bottom up. You have to make services available at an individual level for very basic things. And then as individuals need some level of support, you have to aid the frontline workers to be able to deliver that care. So the more you can, in a sense, prevent people from going to the top of the pyramid, where care delivery is 10, 20, 30 times more expensive, and in many contexts we're working, the top of the pyramid doesn't have specialists. I've just come from Malawi. Any guesses how many radiologists there are in the country of Malawi? Yeah, 4. 4 for the country. Not dissimilar for neurologists in Zimbabwe, or in Senegal, or in the gap from where we are today to get that problem solved, people have estimated 100 years. So we're not going to be able to solve that. Africa alone is about 4.2 million healthcare workers short of the minimum requirement, the WHO requirement of how many healthcare workers we need. That's coupled by the challenges in delivering quality of care. The graph in the middle, and sorry, it's a little bit small. The takeaway is that a really robust work done by the World Bank team, Jishnu Das and colleagues, showed that for 5 very simple conditions, like acute diarrhea, upper respiratory tract infection, malaria, the diagnostic accuracy was around 50% when you were seen by a clinician. Now, if I were to tell you, your chances of getting a diagnosis when you go to your clinician is about the toss of a coin, I don't know that we'd all rush, right? That's the reality. And as you go lower, if you do this for nurses, you get to about 35%. So there is, part of why we're excited and we think we're on the cusp of something really big for the systems that are struggling. I'm sure you've all seen this data. This is performance of a few LLMs against the US MLE, which is kind of interesting. It's exciting. It's trending in the right direction. It does not represent reality, just to be clear. This is a cool benchmark. Patients don't present in benchmarks. They certainly don't present as multiple choice questions. But there are some studies I would have loved to share more with you that actually start to show that LLMs today are at minimum equivalent to highly qualified clinicians and nurses, and are probably erring on significantly better than clinicians. You will see scores of data that come out to show that in different shapes and form. Performing better on these benchmarks does not equal impact and better delivered care. There's a whole bunch of steps that need to be solved for along that pathway. We also know that the cost of compute and doing this kind of decision support for frontline workers is coming down dramatically, which means this could become a near-term opportunity. I'm going to skip this, but this was an example of the models outperforming very complex medical scenarios in the New England Journal of Medicine. They've done this experiment like for 2 years. They'll do it again next year. The models obviously will get better. The models outperform really good specialists. That's kind of cool. I wanted to hear from specialists on the ground. And so I sat with a physician with 40 years experience, runs the largest medical department in Africa. And I said to him, what do you think? He said, I basically use AI every single day for most of my medical cases. And it catches me out. It actually finds my blind spots. So if anyone says to you it's not useful, they don't know how to use the tool, and he walked away. These are kind of more benchmarks, but in the interest of time, can I show you a couple of videos? Let's see if this works. So I'm going to click out, right?
Yep, click out
There we go.
your PowerPoint.
This one.
Yep. Go to slideshow.
Okay,
Yes.
maybe.
Sure.
There we go.
Sorry.
So just a little bit of context. So the video I'm going to show you shocked us because this was in the context of an HIV prevention workshop in a township outside of Cape Town. The native language is isiXhosa, and we wanted to determine whether, in fact, the individuals would be able to follow the discussion and whether this was accurate. So Scott on my team. He's asking about HIV PrEP. Okay, you see his expression. He's pretty blown away. And he kind of at the end of that said, like, where do I get this? He's a peer navigator. He counsels people. That's what he does every single day. It was speaking to him. He said empathetically, it had the right advice, and he said he doesn't know, but it had this like local nuance on the language. The only thing he didn't like was the American accent. It's going to take a while for us to solve that piece. There's another example of a nurse-speaking vendor. That one blew our mind because only 1.5 million people in the world speak vendor. That was really cool. I don't think I have time to show you. I'm just going to tell you what happened. I'm not going to play the video, but I was interviewed by Michael Mole, another clinician, former Mr. South Africa. He put me on the spot, and he said, you have to show us something cool, otherwise we won't let you leave the stage. Okay, Michael. So I said to him, do we have a patient? He says, yes. This patient has come in with left-sided facial weakness. This patient walks on the stage, and I'm like, the last time I've seen a patient with this condition was 15 years ago. I said to him, okay, I don't know what this is. This could be something very benign, like a Bell's palsy, or this could be a stroke. Let's do this. Let me call a neurologist. He's like, yeah, okay, let's do it. You all know this. You all know these. The meta glasses. I called a neurologist somewhere else. He looked at the patient. He said, I need you to do 3 things. So just bear in mind, and sorry I can't show you the demo, but if you have them, or if you want to come find me at the back. The neurologist was looking through my eyes as though he was right in the room. He was hearing what I was hearing as though he was right there. So he asked me to let the patient try and walk. He did this arm-raising thing. He did 2 other things, and he said, this patient has a stroke. I will prepare the cath lab, and the ambulance, you should call the ambulance now. I'm waiting. We will CT scan this patient. After we did that, I had scores of clinicians rush up to me and go, this is actually a game changer. I had a neurosurgeon go, imagine I could train 10,000 students across the world on this very complex procedure I'm going to do tomorrow by basically having them look through my eyes when I'm operating. A dermatologist, so the use cases just started flourishing. And actually, there's no particularly new technology here. It's just a super smart packaging of multiple pieces of technology that allow that to happen. I would love to tell you about the work that we're doing on the consumer side, but I also want to respect time. So am I at time? Oh. Okay. Maybe I'll take 1 minute, Sherry, if that's okay. I'll wrap up in the next minute. So this is some work that we're doing on the self-care side. The idea is, how do you give people some level of agency, but give them the opportunity to engage with reliable healthcare advice in a way that's convenient in their local language and on whatever device they may have? Kind of crazy. Is it 10 years away? We think it's months away. And so one of the crazy targets we'd like to set ourselves is, how soon can we put a pocket health coach in the hands of 100 million users that saves them cost, that improves outcomes, and that takes massive burden off the healthcare system? If any of you want to try it, I actually didn't ask the person permission. It's a alpha testing bot, so maybe I shouldn't share the number. But we've tried it in 30 different languages and have been absolutely blown away, including dialects in India, Africa, Southeast Asia. This one actually is in Urdu, by the way. So if anyone wants, I'll show them afterwards. But this is beyond just advice, just to be clear. So we've built in some agentic function. We're starting to kind of extrapolate what that could look like. So it'll not only provide you an advice that you need to see a neurologist, it'll go ahead and book the appointment based on where you are. It'll provide your medical insurance information. It'll go and fetch your memory. The patient has hypercholesterolemia, hypertension, and a history of cardiac disease. When you get to the consult, much of that will be pre-populated. Sounds kind of sci-fi, right? Hopefully we get there. I would be irresponsible if I did not talk about this. That AI without trust and safety is just fast to scale for our worst mistakes. One of the challenges I'd like to put back to you all is to help us build verifiable AI. And that really means that benchmarks are not enough when we're deploying. We need absolute surety. We need the ability to know where the data came from, what the logic chain was. Can we actually audit the decision-making process? Who do we hold accountable? There's a lot of work to be done here. So, you know, I'm balancing my optimism with the need for us to really build verifiable AI. Because the last thing that we all would want to wake up to is this. The implication of this is massive, not just for the United States, but you can imagine for a Minister of Health in Kenya that's just decided to deploy AI across his primary care system, and this happens in the US, we will slow down. We will be set back 10 or 15 years. And so without verifiable AI and trustworthy AI, this mother simply will not be able to give her child the best chance of progress. Thank you.
Yes, so this is our last talk before lunch, and please come back at least 10 or 15 minutes before 1. because the senator will be here. We're going to have a band, and we're going to have robotic shows. It will be really, really exciting. So hope you will stay, and we have lunch served now. And then the people who are invited to downstairs rooms, 121, please come to the podium for a second, and then we will meet. Thank you.